Alyssa, thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited to chat. I know that we know each other. We're in the same community, but I think there's so much that we have to share as working moms and entrepreneurs. And like we chatted about before we came on, that sometimes it's those real, raw, relatable stories that actually can motivate and inspire others to define their own success as well. So I am really excited to dive into this conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So people can understand more about you and your background. Like, why don't you just share your journey? Like, I'm sure many others listening has been anything but linear. So, losing a business, navigating bankruptcy, job loss, motherhood, but also growing a business. Looking back, what types of mindset shifts helped you to move forward when everything maybe felt uncertain or like it was falling apart and success was not anywhere near?
Yeah, it definitely was a learning curve, and I had to lean on other people, which as an entrepreneur, a lot of us are not good at doing, asking for help. But I definitely just had to consider what I am so grateful for at the end of every day. So, my husband, my children, the life we've built together is not dependent on the success of a business or even really financial success. Do those things make it easier? Of course. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're just signing up for that ride. It's a roller coaster. So just accepting that really, it's different. Not everybody is cut out to live that kind of life. Some people are only cut out to go to school, get the job, have the house, save for retirement. I wasn't built that way. That's just not how my soul wants to navigate this life. And I had to decondition myself a little bit or a lot bit. And I guess I'm still trying to do that every single day. Decondition myself from what society wants you to think is successful or is the correct path when there isn't one correct path. There are different paths, there are easier paths, but there is no one right one for everybody. So whenever I would have what most probably would call a failure, whenever I would wrap up that failure, quote unquote, just looking back and being like, okay, I still have my house. I still have my three beautiful children. I still have my husband. Life's good in that. I don't need the retirement funds stacking up, or I don't need to have that consistent everyday 9 to 5 necessarily. So just being really resilient has helped a lot.
I love that. And I think going back to that connection piece and having those people that you can lean on. And like you said, sometimes as an entrepreneur, it's not always easy, or a lot of people don't necessarily have that support around them. I think that's as I'm moving into 25, and part of this podcast is really about helping people build those stronger connections and know there is a community out there where people are dealing with the same things as you. So if they don't have a family and children and other people to lean on, that there is a community out there for them. And I think that's so important because, like you, I am also so grateful. I have a really strong family around me that I don't even know where I would be without them. Like, where do I even begin? My family is everything to me, and extended family. And so having that support network. But then also on the entrepreneur side, I've always invested in a coach and in a community myself because I know that it's important to be surrounded by the people that are going through the same things, but also reaching for those bigger things. We're not just going to take failure as, oh, that didn't work, I quit. I'm always like, oh shit, that didn't work.
Yep.
What's next? Or where do we go next from here? Like, as a learning lesson,
Yep.
it's so important. Do you mind just sharing a little bit of backstory so our listeners can understand where you're coming from?
Yeah. First of all, I'd also just like to say when in your journey, whether it's entrepreneurship or whatever, you have to learn to enjoy the failure and enjoy the learning from it. Now that I've gone through some of the failures that I've gone through, which I will go over here shortly, I get really excited to try like the other way I should have done it or the other way that I now have a theory about and see if that will work. So I guess you have to be really into experimenting if you're going to be on this entrepreneurial journey. And experimenting is exactly what I've done in terms of business my whole life. I just get really interested in like concepts of different businesses that I could start, and I just want to try them. Even if it's just to like literally launch it, see what happens, and then say, I tried it, I'm good there. So I have always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was a little girl, I would set up my easy bake oven in my parents' basement and pretend they had to come to my restaurant. Lemonade stand and selling my bracelets on the side of the road. Like, I just always wanted to own a business. I actually went to school for entrepreneurship. That's what my degree is in, is entrepreneurship. And so obviously you learn a lot about business there, but that is nothing compared to actually doing it in real life. So I definitely learned everything I know about business and marketing in general through just trial and error. So I got into marketing, and that's what I do full time now. I'm a digital marketer for a local company in the Chippewa Valley here in Wisconsin. But I started marketing by meeting the CEO of a startup in college. And we just like became friends because we were in different organizations together on campus. And he was like, hey, do you want to be my marketing director for this brand new company I'm starting? And I was like, sure. I don't know anything about marketing, but yeah, I'll do it. And so he basically paid for me to learn marketing through HubSpot. If you're familiar with HubSpot, it's how I learned the concept of inbound and digital marketing in general. And I just really fell in love with it because of the mixture of data and the science and hard fact that comes with marketing and planning and analytics, but then also the creativity of marketing and understanding people and psychology as well. So I fell in love with it. And knowing marketing goes really well if you're trying to be a business owner as well. So being able to apply what I was learning professionally to any of my personal projects. And thankfully, that boss at the time, being an entrepreneur himself, he was very supportive of any like side projects I had. He would help me with starting businesses and ideas and that kind of stuff. So I was very fortunate to have that kind of role model and support in my boss. A lot of people do not get that kind of opportunity, but it was just really nice to foster that want of entrepreneur in me, or entrepreneurship in me. And so then I would start with Etsy shops, greeting cards, and other little things where I could make them after work and sell them online. And that just helped me learn how to do it, how to sign up for an LLC, how to pay quarterly sales taxes, the mundane part of entrepreneurship that nobody gets excited about, but that's very necessary to learn. I just learned it on the side. And again, every time I would start a business, it would go really well. And then I would get bored. So I would want to start new things. And then life also just happened. So I moved back from school and found a marketing job full time here back home. So working full time mostly, but then also just always having this like itch inside of me to have my own business. And in my mind, and this was 10 years ago now, but in my mind, I'm sitting there working full time, thinking like I could be working for myself. And back then, my definition of success probably would have been getting really rich by owning my own business. And I think that was probably the lesson I had to learn throughout the rest of my journey is like, what is the definition of success? Is it getting really rich? Is it owning your own business? And it's neither of those things for me. So the hard lessons I was taught through entrepreneurship essentially was in 2019, I was presented with an opportunity to take over a restaurant for free as long as I signed a 5-year lease starting in 2020. Everything was included in this. So the ovens, the inventory of the food that was there, the employees planned on staying on at this restaurant. And as long as I signed a 5-year lease with my cousin, the restaurant was ours for free. We didn't have to buy anything. And we were like, that is such a great deal. Like, of course we'll do it. Like, so naive at the time. But it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Nobody gets this opportunity. And we both like really loved experimenting with business. So we were like, yeah, we're going to do it. So we take over this restaurant on January 1st of 2020. And neither of us had even had our ServSafe certification. We didn't have any of our licensing done, nothing. Like, it was pure chaos. And we get the keys to this restaurant and people's like livelihoods. And I'm in my 20s at the time. Just put all that in your mind, and you're like a kid, essentially. And we had this, what did we do moment? What were we thinking? And so I literally had to learn how to run a restaurant while owning it, and hopefully not like completely losing my house and my mortgage. And I had, my daughter wasn't even a year old yet at the time, my firstborn. So when I say I was stressed out at that point in my life, like that's not even close to what I was feeling. But did I learn a lot? Yeah, I learned a lot about running a business, having employees, taking inventory, expenses, profit and loss, like all the things. I had to. There was no other option. And in the months of owning that restaurant, I learned that I hated it. I hated owning a restaurant. Not only did I hate owning a restaurant in terms of the food and serving, and I like, if you're a restaurant owner, you're the one working pretty much open to close Monday through Sunday, all the things. COVID happened and closed us down on February 17th, 2020. Where we had to completely switch up the way we ran our entire business. It was dependent on people booking our back room for baby showers and birthday parties, and large group events was a big portion of our revenue plan when we went and got a small business loan, and that got completely wiped away. And rent was over $5,000 a month at this location. So we,
Wow.
had to pivot. We had to have a very tough conversation with our landlord at the time and basically just say to this person, what's going on in the world? Can you work with us? So it definitely taught me how to advocate for myself and my business and have hard conversation. It taught me about negotiating and all that stuff. Come the end of 2020, talked to our landlord, like, we hate running this restaurant. Thank you so much for giving it to us for free, but we hate it. COVID happened, like we can't even do the business we had originally planned. And I had come to my landlord with a plan though. And that I think was the biggest thing, is you can have adversity and things will not go the way you plan them, like probably 75% of the time as an entrepreneur. But being able to be creative in your solutions and coming up with a plan, and you'd be surprised how many people will work with you and not against you in this journey. At the end of 2020, I pivoted and we closed the restaurant part of the business and turned it into a boutique, like a women's clothing boutique. Restaurant goes to boutique, and I was much happier. I didn't have nearly as much overhead expenses. There wasn't the food side of things. Like, if a pandemic happened, it probably wasn't going to close down the business or anything like that. And I guess the lesson I learned from that whole experience is, one, I'm not invincible and I don't know everything. Because when we went into that restaurant, we were like, what could go wrong? It's a restaurant that's already getting customers. Of course, it'll be fine. No, we were crazy. And it
And
just,
all right, sorry, I was going to say, and nobody could have guessed that we were going to have a pandemic and
Right.
everything shut down. That
Yeah.
definitely didn't work to your
no,
benefit. So
no, I did not factor that in to the possibilities when we signed that over. And you do have to really want it. We fought to be entrepreneurs when that happened. We tried to keep the restaurant open, didn't work out. So instead of just throwing in the towel, I was like, all right, how can I make this business work somehow? I still had loans to pay. What people don't understand is during that pandemic, any business owner that had loans and leases and anything like that didn't all just stop being billed to us when we were shut down. There was no massive amount of relief. Yes, there were some of those relief programs, but still had debt and rent and all the things. So I had to figure out a way to still make it work, even if it wasn't working. So again, going back to being really creative in the face of adversity and coming up with a plan that works. So I did that boutique for a while. I had to move it around and started to build our family more. In 2021, my second baby was born and I was doing the boutique, and I still felt stuck no matter what I did with that business. Like you, I had a business coach the whole time. I had one that was specific to like retail and boutique style businesses because you have that inventory aspect to your business. Whereas like coaching or service based, you don't have like inventory that drives the sales. So it's very different. And I also had more mindset based coaches. And the mindset based coach definitely helped me redefine my definition of success and where I want to go in life. Whereas that other coach really helped me understand business and numbers. And so I think it's really important to understand what kind of help you need specifically when you're on your journey. But like you said, yes, you can have family and friends, but you also need to curate the kind of people around you in order to be on the right path. So that's why you and I are in the same network. We just happened to find people who are on a similar journey with each other. And it does not happen to be your best friends. Like it just isn't. You all are on completely different paths. And typically your friends are not entrepreneurs like you. But going through the process of having that mindset coach helped me understand this business is not where I want to go. I've learned so much from running the restaurant, turning it into a boutique. And I got the boutique to a point where it could run itself. It was profitable, but there was no way that boutique could pay off the massive amount of debt that the restaurant had. It was a 400 square foot boutique. That was the cash flow was fine, but there was still this huge debt payment from the restaurant. And again, I have a mortgage, I have family, 2 little ones at this time. And my mindset coach goes, have you ever thought about bankruptcy? And I was like, no, nobody thinks about bankruptcy. Nobody tries to file for bankruptcy. As a matter of fact, that would be like worst case scenario for me. And I would mark myself as a complete failure. And she was like, no, like bankruptcy is a tool that people sometimes need to use when things like this happen. This is actually exactly what bankruptcy was made for. I wrote it off, right? It's really scary to hear that word. And it's always talked about so negatively in general in society. Bankruptcy is the lowest you can get in terms of finance. So I was very hesitant to even entertain that idea. But every time we would meet, she kept bringing it up. So there is still bankruptcy. Like you could see if that could get you out of this business if you're really feeling this stuck and you don't see a way to get past all the debt from the restaurant. I just felt so much guilt even entertaining the idea of bankruptcy because, again, society conditions you stay out of debt, or if you do go into debt, it's your responsibility to pay it off, which I agree with that. I'm not saying I don't agree with that, but again, like you said, I did not plan on COVID happening to that business, to a business that, yes, I probably had no business accepting the responsibility of, but it was just in my family's best interest at the time to explore this unconventional way of solving this problem, which was bankruptcy. And I like to share this story because sometimes people don't follow their dreams because they are scared of failing. And most people would consider bankruptcy a big fail. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a fail, but I am saying that I'm okay after. We did file the bankruptcy. We did not lose our house. We still have our kids. We've gone on to have one more kid after. Life went on. And it's great now, right? I have a job because I still had the skills that I had before, and I was able to get a job after bankruptcy. We worked with a lawyer who helped us really protect a lot of our assets. And my husband still has his job. People think bankruptcy is end of life situation. It's not. The world still went around. I still woke up the next day. Yeah, we're still here. Our credit is back to normal. I do not regret the bankruptcy at all. I do not regret failing, quote unquote, the business. It's an experience that is uniquely mine. I learned so much from it. I know exactly how not to run a restaurant if anybody needs to know the information. And now I feel like it's my duty to help other women who are considering not following their dream, to just maybe show them what failure does look like. What does failure look like? Is it the end of the world if it fails? It's not. Like, I can tell you, you will figure it out. Everything is figure outable as long as you're willing to redefine success for yourself, your family, enjoy the journey, and accept that failure is a very natural part of learning, whether it's a small failure or a big failure like bankruptcy was. So yeah, like I said, I work full time now in marketing for a local company, and I love learning from my full time job. I do also do freelance for other boutiques. I do marketing and freelance and other small businesses. So everything I did learn in that experience is very relevant to the types of clients I work with on web design and marketing now. And I'm able to share this wealth of knowledge with other small business owners that can, one, help them avoid bankruptcy, but two, just help them grow their businesses online. And I never would have had that unique type of insight into small boutiques, cafes, salons, if I hadn't tried that one business and failed. I'm also really confident that if the economy took a downturn, and at the end of the day, marketing is often one of the first departments to get let go in a company, I could turn that freelance business back on and start making money again. So I have no regrets. I still encourage people to go for it and try, maybe be a little bit more calculated in your risks than I was when I was in my 20s. But even talking to my financial advisor and other business owners, they're like, it's a good thing you failed in your 20s and you started over in your 30s. At least you didn't fail in your 50s and you're starting over in your 60s. And even if you did, it'd be fine. You'd be fine. And that's so true. I have the rest of my life to continue experimenting. And that mindset business coach I had even said, if you wanted to in 20 years, you could reopen a business. No one's going to stop you. Bankruptcy will be long gone, not even on like your credit report or anything. Yeah, lots happened in that time. And like I said, marketing is it's a chaotic role to have because, again, it's considered an expense at a business. So sometimes when layoffs happen, marketing is the first department to go. And that did happen to me when I was unknowingly pregnant with my third child. So it was just like after the bankruptcy. Yeah. After the bankruptcy, I went and did freelance and got a job again. Just feels like the smart, right thing to do. And it's the safe thing to do, is to go get a job. Then I got laid off. So when people say you should just get a job, a safe company, blah, 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 there is no such thing. Like, we could not have predicted my layoff, and we could not have predicted COVID happening. So when somebody tells you to take the safe route or that's too risky, you have to really consider, like, never say never to anything. And as long as, again, you're willing to redefine success as you go, like, everything will be okay, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing your story, because it's so true. The mindset that a lot of times we have around money can block so many things. And this is something that I am working on, that I have been working on, because it's a real thing. Understanding money and understanding the things that it can do for us. And like you said, not just viewing bankruptcy as a failure, but being able to start over, being able to learn from that, being able to create the future you want to create for yourself. And still, there's two different ways to look at it. Some people could file bankruptcy because they just don't want to deal with it. But on your story, where it's, no, this is the decision we need to make in order to create the life and future we want. And not viewing it as failure, but viewing it as, okay, that was a minor setback. Now how can we move forward? And to taking risks. I think I've always definitely done things like in an unconventional way, like probably quit my full-time job before I should have and jumping off into a business of my own. But sometimes I know what I want and I'm just going to work for it. And it's not always going to be that straight line path that you think it's going to be. They're not going to work out. They're not going to go as planned. You're going to have to shift. And just that resilience of being able to say, okay, that didn't work. What can we try next?
Yeah.
What way can we
Yeah.
try? Because so many entrepreneurs, I think we're just visionaries. Like we come up with all these creative ideas and what ones can we take and actually move forward instead of trying to
Yeah.
do all the things at once. But what do you feel was the biggest mindset shift for when you're talking about working with your mindset coach of like finally being able to say, okay, yes, this is the decision we need to make for our family and how can we move forward? Is there a big mindset shift that helped you move forward?
I was a people pleaser. I still am. I can't say I was. I am a people pleaser, but I have to still work on the mindset that it does not have to make sense to anybody else. As long as it makes sense to me and my husband, I does not have to make sense to anybody else. My parents don't have to approve my decision. My family or my friends don't have to approve my decision. They don't have to understand it. It is none of their business. Like you said, I am very open and I'm very willing to share this experience because I know it will help somebody if I share it. But I am judged very much from people who know me and people who don't know me. And at first, that was my biggest fear, was what other people were going to think. So that was the mindset, and it still is. Like I still have to constantly work on not caring what other people think. And a quote that I have to tell myself is, your opinion of me is none of my business. I don't care what you think of me. I'm going to keep doing what's right for me, and your opinion is your problem. That is a very difficult mindset to change. And I think honestly, when people are worried about failing, it boils down to that. It boils down to what other people are going to think of that failure. And I guess that is, you have to be okay with understanding that some people aren't going to agree with your decisions. You're probably going to lose some friends that weren't actually your friend, if that's what you're going to lose them over. And I would say, like, most of the mindset stuff had nothing to do with the business. Nothing. It's all personal and spiritual. As an entrepreneur, you will learn that your mindset, your personal mindset, and your spiritual mindset is like those, that's where the blocks come from. It's not the business itself. It's wild when you learn it too.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I'm going to go back to that thing you said of not caring what other people think because that can stop you. And I talk to that with my clients and it's something I was just listening to on another group that I'm in. When we think about our marketing and our messaging, and so often it's putting yourself out there, sharing your story so that you're resonating, right? You're giving that right message to people so you resonate with them. And so often people don't do it because they're afraid what others are going to think, or the imposter syndrome sets in, or like trying to say this because of X, Y, Z. And so I think that's really great to come out of it with that point of who cares what anyone else thinks? The right people are going to come to you, the wrong people will repel. And so the more confident that you can become of just putting it out there and sharing your message, you're going to resonate with the right people. And it comes back to the competition out there. So many people do the same thing as me and we connect with each other. Like you're in marketing, I'm in marketing, but we both do separate things. And how can we work together and share our stories? Because some people are going to resonate with you more. Some people are going to resonate with me. And it's okay. We're all here to help each other. And also, just side note, this is like weighing me off track. It's so frustrating to me when they cut marketing departments. I'm going to go back to that because marketing is important. You can't be seen without marketing.
Exactly. I know.
Yes, I went like full circle and said a lot there, but I think just bringing it back to allowing people to show up for who they are, not care what others think, and then incorporate that for our businesses. Because so many of our listeners are entrepreneurs and growing and scaling. And I think the same things show up, whether you're a $1 million business owner or you're making $30,000 a year, the same issues show up. And a lot of it has to do with that personal mindset. It's so important to really work on yourself as a business owner and be able to share your story in a way that feels good to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I want to make sure that our listeners can find you. So I know that you're working full-time marketing, but you're also helping boutique owners, salons, retail to build their websites, build their online presence. So where can listeners connect with you if that fits them, learn more about your work?
Yeah.
A little bit more about that.
They can go to alysatollefson.com or primarily follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram, where I currently just share anything marketing related that I can think of that I know is going to help people sell themselves. And that's where I really share the nitty gritty how-tos for people who are just getting started with marketing.
Okay, amazing. And I'll have all your links posted in the show notes as well. And then just one final question for you that I like to ask all of my guests is, how do you define success for you now? What does success look like for you?
Success for me looks like just being able to be present in my day-to-day life and be happy with it. So many times people, like you said, are visionaries and they're always looking to the future. When you're always looking to the future, you're going to miss out on your entire life. Again, you have to really enjoy that journey.
Thank you so much. I think that's so important too, because as a mom of littles working full time, like having those few hours to be able to fully be present is so important. And I know that's a huge thing I'm working on, always working on, is just being present in the moment, because it's hard. It's really hard, but it's so important.
For sure.
Thank you again, Alyssa, for sharing your story and just being really open and inspiring others. So I appreciate you and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.